Most people think they know what's helping and hurting their finances, but here's the truth. Some of the things you believe are helping you are actually hurting you. And the stuff you've been ignoring, that might be the key to building real wealth. So today I'm breaking down the 5 financial allies quietly helping you grow your wealth and the 5 financial enemies that are draining your bank account. And by the end of this video, you'll know which ones to double down on and which ones to drop completely. Let's start with what's working, your financial allies. Simply put, these are systems, habits, and tools that quietly build your net worth, and while some are obvious, others might surprise you. Now, before we get into it, take 2 seconds, hit like and subscribe. It really helps push this video out to more people. But let's go. First up is retirement accounts. Now, everybody tells you to save for retirement, but why? Why should I care about something that's decades away and forget to live in the here and now? Well, first of all, nobody wants to be forced to work until the end of their life. The idea behind retirement accounts is to incentivize people with some tax benefits to set money aside for later. So yes, if you put money into retirement accounts, then by definition, you don't get to spend all of your money that you have right now. And why would that be a good thing? Well, according to a 2023 survey from the Federal Reserve, the median retirement savings for people right around their 60s and 70s is $200,000. And if you do the math, that's not enough to last for 20 years. So if you want to be sure you have enough money in your nest egg to cover all of retirement and be free from working a job that you don't really want to work, it might be time to join forces with a retirement account like a 401k from your employer or setting up a Roth IRA yourself. Because time in the market beats timing the market. And contributing to either one of these accounts lets you take advantage of compound growth. Even just $28 a day can get you to millionaire status in just a few decades. But I wouldn't worry about investing yet until you have the next financial ally on your side, which is a high yield savings account. If your emergency fund is sitting in a regular savings account that's earning 0.4%, that's an emergency. As of early 2025, high yield savings accounts can give you up to 10 times that at 4% or more. And if that means nothing to you, let me put it this way. So if you had a full 6-month emergency fund, let's say it's $25,000 and it was sitting in a high yield savings account, that would earn you $1,000 per year for doing nothing. Compare that to a regular savings account and you're looking at more like $100 a year. And keep in mind, this is money that you're not gonna spend anyway because it's set aside for emergencies only. And so if you're not using a high yield savings account, it's costing you hundreds or thousands of dollars per year for pretty much no reason. To put this into perspective, Wealthfront, the one that I use, earned me $2,155.49 last year. And if that were sitting in just a regular savings account, it would have been more like $239, effectively losing me $1,900 over the course of the year. So make sure you sign up for some type of high yield savings account. I'll leave my link to Wealthfront below so you can get an additional bonus of 4.5% for the first 3 months. And if you don't want to use my link, that's fine, you're an adult, just pick whichever one you like. So earlier we talked about investing in your retirement accounts, but we didn't actually talk about what you should buy within them. And I think a lot of people forget to log in and buy investments within these accounts like your 401k and your IRA because they think simply contributing money into them, aka transferring money from one account to another, is investing. But that's a huge misconception and a simple mistake that could literally cost you millions over the course of your lifetime. But because you're smart and you know to check these things, let's go over some popular investments that have made people rich in the past really without much effort. And no, I'm not talking about picking the next hot stock like Nvidia or Apple. I'm talking about index funds, specifically in the form of ETFs. And if you don't already know, index funds are investments that you can buy to mimic the stock market performance of a group of companies. And the most popular index funds are ones that track the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the total stock market. And if I lost you at S&P and NASDAQ, I'll make it even simpler. Basically, you can buy investments that give you a small piece of the best 500 companies in America, like Walmart, Netflix, and Home Depot. That's the S&P 500. You can also buy investments that give you small pieces of all the cool technology companies like Google, Nvidia, and Microsoft. That's the NASDAQ. If you just wanted to buy every single public company in the US with a single click of a button, you could do that too. The point is, there are endless options for index funds, so here are some really popular ones that are not going to take a bunch of money from you in fees. And if you're curious about what I buy every month, I buy VOO and QQQM. Alright, now that we know that we can invest in index funds in our retirement accounts, that we should have our savings in a high yield savings account, what about the day-to-day finances? What habits can help us stay on top of all this complicated information? You're going to hate me for saying this, but it has to be said: budgeting. Ugh. I know, budgeting sounds boring and it almost always is. But here's the thing, you can't improve what you don't measure. And tracking your spending through a budget gives you control, and it's not really about restriction, it's about giving yourself permission to spend. But if you still aren't a fan of the idea and you usually put it off because it sucks, try automating it so that you don't really have to look at it. I use Empower's personal dashboard, which just links to all of my accounts. It automatically categorizes everything so that I can see what I spent and where. That way I can stay on top of all of my financial decisions without having to sit down every week and manually do it. But if you like opening up Excel and spreading the sheets, I'll leave my free Google Sheets budget tracker in the description for you to download. Okay, the last financial ally is easily the most fundamental principle, and you cannot do all the other things without this one. Spend less than you make. Simple. Not always easy, but if your goal is financial freedom, this should be your top priority. Without it, you'll never be free from work. You will always need to clock in, grind 40 hours a week, and then be waiting for that next paycheck. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a dream scenario. At some point, I want to work on the things that I'm passionate about without worrying about the money because I made smart decisions along the way to help me get there. And that's exactly what you can do with these 5 financial allies. But they only work if you avoid the 5 financial enemies that I'm about to outline, otherwise they just cancel each other out. So the problem with financial enemies is that they might seem harmless at first, but in reality, they're silently sabotaging your wealth building journey. And the worst part is most of us don't even realize that we're falling into these traps. So let's break them down so you know what to look out for. Starting off with high interest debt, and I'm mainly referring to credit card debt and payday loans. And before you get mad at me for saying credit cards, look, I get it. Credit cards are really helpful. I mean, who doesn't love getting points and cash back and airline miles? But if you're carrying credit card debt specifically, it's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You're pouring money in, but it's just leaking out faster than you can keep up with. And according to lendingtree.com, the average interest rate right now is 24%. Oh my God, 24? That's horrible. To put this into perspective, if you made the minimum monthly payment on a card with the average balance of $6,580 and the average interest rate of 24%, it would take you 26 years to pay it off. And you'd pay an additional $12,492.20, which brings you to a grand total of $19,072.20, and most of that is being paid in interest. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd rather be spending that extra money on things that I personally enjoy, not giving it to the CEO of my bank for another yacht. And don't even get me started on payday loans because they make credit card debt look like an absolute joke. I was just researching this earlier today and I found out that some payday loans go up to 600% interest. That means if you take the average payday loan of $300 and it takes the average amount of time to pay it off, which is 5 months, it comes out to a total of $1,000. And at that point, you might as well just be lighting your cash on fire because it's going to be way less stressful. Please don't ever get a payday loan. I'm getting upset just thinking about it. Let's move on. The next financial enemy that you need to look out for is lifestyle creep, which is pretty much a guaranteed way to keep you broke forever. When you get a raise, you spend more. When you get a bonus check, it goes towards a new car. When you get a new job with a big salary increase, you buy a bigger house. And before you know it, you're making twice as much as you were making just a few years ago, and yet you're still living paycheck to paycheck. And this one is the trickiest to spot because usually it's pretty slow for most of us. I mean, it's kind of hard to see the $2,000 or $3,000 raise that goes to little things here and there throughout the year, and before we know it, we still don't have any money left in our bank account. And by the way, treating yourself is not the issue. The issue is letting your spending grow so much that it keeps up with the increase in your salary, so there's really no difference at all. It's as if you didn't get a raise. And more money should give you more freedom, not just fancier bills. Speaking of fancier bills, let's talk about the next financial enemy that we all fall victim to, which is impulse spending. I'm sure you've been here before. I know I have. You walk into Target and you think you're buying one thing, and then you end up buying $100 worth of stuff that you thought you needed. Or maybe you're scrolling your phone late at night, you're half asleep, and then the next thing you know, you buy a $2,000 MacBook Pro. Okay, that last one was me, but I promise I needed it for YouTube. Impulse spending happens because it feels good in the moment. It's sometimes referred to as retail therapy, and it is a very real thing. But your future self might not appreciate the therapy bill that's disguised as a shopping spree. So how do we stop it? One trick that I use is to add things to my cart and then wait 24 to 48 hours. If tomorrow I wake up and I go, I don't really need that thing, then that saves me money. If you still want to buy that thing, then at least you're being intentional and not just emotional about the spending. Another tip that I've used in the past is to make it difficult to spend money. And I'm sure you've seen this pop up if you use Google Chrome, or I don't know if Safari does it too, where if you buy something online, it says, do you want to save your credit card information? Say no every single time. Do not save this anywhere. Delete it from all of your apps, because if buying something takes an extra 60 seconds to put in all of that information, that just might be enough time to think to yourself, do I really need this, or am I just bored? reward. And companies figured this out years ago, where if there's a lot of friction within a transaction, in other words, if it's difficult to buy something, people are less likely to buy it. That's why Amazon has two options: add to cart, which is more friction, and buy now, which is one click and you buy the thing. It's also why payment systems and credit cards have teamed up for tap to pay. It's way too much of a hassle to get a card out and swipe it and wait for the thing to go through. It's way easier just to kind of wave your card over like a magic wand, and then it takes money from your account. And so it's all these little ways that companies have figured out to make less and less friction within transactions, and it gives them more and more money. So the harder it is to spend, the easier it is to save. But if you have your own business and you're wondering how to cancel out all of these saving tips and get into the pockets of America, what's the best way to do it? Advertising. It's difficult to avoid this in the US because we are the #1 ad spend in the entire world at $422 billion in 2024 alone. China comes up next at 230 billion, and then the next closest is the UK at 58 billion. So we are miles ahead of everybody. And I don't say that like it's a good thing. I mean, you know how when you casually mention to your friend that you're thinking about buying a new pair of shoes? All of a sudden, all the ads that you see on your phone are for new shoes? That's no accident. At some point, you must have looked up something related to shoes in that scenario, and advertisers caught on to that instantly with all of the data that they have on you. And companies are very good at convincing us that we need something that we didn't even know existed just a few minutes ago. And we live in a world where we're constantly being sold to on Instagram, here on YouTube, on TikTok, on podcasts, you name it. It's all designed to make you think, if I just buy this one thing, I'll be happy. But unfortunately, that feeling only lasts until the bill comes up. So here's the key to beating all this is to be mindful. When you see an ad that looks really cool, you can stop and ask yourself, is this something that I really need, or is this somebody who's really good at marketing? Chances are they're really good at marketing, and they're aiming to give you something called FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. And it's also the last financial enemy on this list. Now, this one's sneaky because it's not just advertisers that we get the fear of missing out from. A lot of the times it's because we're scrolling on Instagram when we see a friend on vacation, or somebody just bought a new car, or our buddy has the latest iPhone that looks really cool. And suddenly we feel like we need to catch up. That's FOMO talking. But here's what you don't see. You don't see the credit card bill behind the vacation. You don't see the car payment that takes up half of their paycheck, or the fact that the new phone was financed for the next 36 months. Just because somebody is spending does not mean that they're winning with money. In fact, oftentimes it's the exact opposite. Looking really rich and being flashy is usually a silent but subtle sign that you're in debt. So just focus on your goals, because the best flex is not needing to flex at all. All right, so let's put all of this into perspective. On one side, you've got habits working for you, and on the other side, you have habits working against you. And the truth is that every financial decision you make is either moving you toward the good habits or the bad habits. And the good news is that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to kind of tilt the scale towards your favor. You don't have to cut out every single splurge. You don't need to become a financial monk. It's just about making better choices more often. Choose to invest, track your spending a little, live below your means. And these aren't just random tips. They're small daily habits that build the freedom to work because you want to, not because you have to. And of course, we've all fallen victim to these traps: credit card debt, lifestyle creep, impulse spending. Nobody's perfect, but the real danger isn't making a mistake. It's just staying there and thinking that it doesn't matter. So let me ask you this. What's one thing that you can change today to help you move toward the financial life that you actually want? Not next week, not next month, today. Just start small, start with something simple, but really all that matters is that you just start. I promise your future self will thank you so much for the decisions that you make today. So do me a favor, drop a comment below. Let me know which financial ally you're going to focus on this week and which financial enemy that you're going to just obliterate. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button, hit subscribe for more practical financial tips, and check out this video here for the #1 wealth killer that you need to avoid. Peace. Forced, is that right? To work, okay. That's probably a good place. Good way to shame yourself. What am I saying?